On April 11, Julian will be 2 years in prison. April 5th is the 11th anniversary of WikiLeaks' release of the collateral murder video exposing war crimes. There are plenty of anniversaries to keep in mind. Later this year, the so-called War on Terror will turn 20 years old. The War on Terror was a lie. It exploited the thousands of tragic deaths on 9/11 to justify Bush and Blair's criminal enterprise of war abroad and to attack and dismantle civil liberties and human rights at home. Only a few days ago, it was the 18th anniversary of the beginning of the Iraq War. Those of us who saw Western governments launch the Iraq War also saw the establishment press and the broadcasters cheer them on and viciously attack the majority of people who knew that it was wrong. None of the ringleaders ever went to prison for the deaths of over 1 million people, the torture, suffering and chaos that came about because of their actions. We watched them get away with it, and the fact that they got away with it damaged the fabric of our societies. It undermined the rule of law. It harmed democracy. We saw people at the highest level of power do criminal acts despite everyone opposing them and suffer no consequences. It made us feel powerless, and our societies feel broken and corrupt. So when WikiLeaks came along in 2010, it wasn't just any old scandal in the press. The press had failed to expose this scandal. This was bigger than that. It was a huge democratic event. It was an example of someone using journalism to try and put all of that right again, to address injustice. It was very powerful, and it made us feel powerful because it provided the cold, hard evidence for what everybody already knew, that there was something filthy and rotten and criminal at the very top of our societies. And when that happened, it was obvious that there would be a crackdown. 10 years on, that crackdown is in full swing, made possible because of Bush and Blair's attack on civil liberties. Tony Blair's extradition treaty was designed to remove safeguards for people accused of terrorism. Now those safeguards are gone, and it's being used to extradite a journalist for doing journalism. The ongoing detention of Julian Assange is obviously cruel and punitive. He has suffered enough and should not be facing these legal difficulties. But even allowing that he has to deal with them, he doesn't need to be in prison. He should at least be able to face this from his home with the support of the people who love him. But it's not just that Julian is being punished personally. We also have to consider the public effects of this spectacle. Remember how inspiring WikiLeaks publications were? The charges against Julian are intended to be a counterexample to that. We talk about the chilling effect of this case as if it's something in the future if Julian doesn't win. But that's not true. The chilling effect is now. For 2 years now, the most famous journalist in the world has been in prison in the UK. It might have been possible during the 7 years he was arbitrarily detained in the embassy for people to pretend that it wasn't about his journalism, but that's simply not possible anymore. The most famous journalist in the world is in prison, not in Saudi Arabia, not in Russia, not in China, but in Britain. And the message is clear. If you follow Julian's example, you're finished. Our governments have lost interest in the so-called war on terror. Their new obsession is reviving the Cold War for a new century. Here in Brussels, the escalation against China and Russia is being used to drive billions of euros into weapons spending. The same is going on all over the West. And of course, just like the weapons, propaganda and lies are proliferating too. 10 years ago, at an anti-war rally in Trafalgar Square, Julian said to the crowd, "If wars can be started with lies, peace can be started with truth." At a time like this, we need journalists like Julian Assange more than ever. We need brave, principled people who are ready to stand up to lies, to tell the truth to the public, and to oppose the mad rush to war. We need those people not to be scared that they face several lifetimes in prison for criticising the powerful, but rather emboldened by the knowledge that they live in a society where telling the truth will always be protected. That's why this is so important for everyone, that Julian wins his case once and for all. That's why Julian's victory in the courtroom in January is such a beacon of hope. And that's why all of us, as his supporters, should take hope from that victory and renew our campaign to set him free again.